Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Talk Ralph English podcast, the podcast that helped you speak English more naturally, more confidently, and more fluently every single episode. I'm your host, Ralph, and I am so happy you are here with us today. And joining me, as always, is my wonderful co-host. Say hello, Arya.
Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be here with you today.
Today, we are talking about 3 words that confuse English learners every single day, the words either, neither, and rather. By the end of this episode, you will know exactly what each word means, when to use them, and how to use them in real, everyday conversation, just like a natural English speaker.
Exactly. And if you stay with us until the very end, you will go from feeling confused by these 3 words to feeling completely confident using them. You will sound more natural, more fluent, and more like a real English speaker. That is our promise to you today.
It really is. So to kick things off, I want you, our listener, to imagine a scenario. You are at a networking event, right? And you are prepared, you have all the right vocabulary, your resume is great.
You're totally ready.
Exactly. And you're chatting with someone important, and they make a little joke complaining about the traffic. They say, I don't like the traffic. And you want to agree. So you say, I don't like the traffic too.
No.
Right. Instantly, the other person looks just a tiny bit confused. You didn't use the wrong vocabulary, but you used the wrong little connecting word.
Yeah, that is a super common trap. It happens to advanced speakers all the time. Like, you can talk about complex things, but if you mess up these tiny structural words, the ones that show agreement or preference, you just kind of lose that natural rhythm.
Which is exactly why we're going to fix that today. We are pulling all our tips from a great deep dive source called Mastering Either, Neither, and Rather, the Natural English Guide. And I'm going to take the lead on this first word. Let's look at either.
Yes, let's do it.
So at its most basic level, either means one or the other. It's used when you have exactly 2 choices, not 3, not 4, just 2.
Right, just 2 options.
Now, before we get into the grammar, let's quickly talk about pronunciation, because people get very confused by this. In British English, we usually say ether.
And in American English, we almost always say ether. And the cool thing is, both are completely correct. No native speaker will ever correct you on that.
Spot on. So say whichever one feels easier for you. But let's look at a real-life example. If we are at a cafe and the waiter asks, would you like tea or coffee? I might say, oh, either is fine.
Which is such a great phrase. It shows you're flexible. It tells the listener, I am easygoing. I don't mind which one you pick.
Exactly. But here is where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
When we use the structure either or, we are presenting 2 clear choices, like either you come to me or I come to you.
Yeah, and that brings up the big grammar rule for this word, right? The parallel structure.
Yes, the parallel structure. It's a bit like, well, imagine a scale, a balancing scale. If you put a noun on the left side after either, you have to put a noun on the right side after, or
Right, they have to match.
they must match. If you say either you can call me or sending a message, the sentence just, it sort of breaks. It tips over.
It totally derails the conversation. Your brain expects the same type of word on both sides, so it should be either you can call me or you can send me a message. Action matches action.
Brilliant. Yes, it makes the sentence flow perfectly. But, okay, let's talk about the negative trap, the networking example we mentioned at the start.
Yes, the dreaded me too in negative sentences.
Right. Because if someone says, I don't like the traffic, and you want to say me too, you cannot say I don't too. It sounds so awkward. You have to use either. But the strange part is you have to put at the very end of the sentence, I don't like it either.
Yeah, English is funny that way.
But why? Why do we push it to the very end instead of just sticking it next to the verb?
Well, it's actually about rhythm and impact. By putting either at the end, it acts like an anchor. You're giving your full negative sentence first, I don't like it, and then you drop that either at the end to hook your thought onto the other person's thought.
Ah, I see. It kind of locks the agreement in place.
Exactly. It feels so much more satisfying than trying to cram it into the middle of the sentence.
Before we go any further, if you are finding this helpful, please take 1 second to hit the like button below. It really helps other English learners find this podcast. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now so you never miss a new episode. Okay, back to the lesson.
Okay, so Ralph just explained either, which is all about keeping your options open. But what if you want to close both options?
Right, shutting both doors.
Exactly. And that brings us to section 2, which is the word neither. So if either is a choice between 2 things, neither means not one, and not the other. You are rejecting both.
And just like before, pronunciation here is flexible, right?
Totally. You can say NY ether or neither. Both are fine. So going back to that cafe example, the waiter asks, tea or coffee? If you want water, you would just say, neither. Thank you. I'll just have water.
It's very firm, very confident.
It really is. It projects a lot of confidence. But let's talk about how we use it to agree with a negative statement. This is the flip side of what we just talked
Oh,
about.
right. The alternative to I don't either.
Yeah. So if your friend says, I haven't seen that movie, you could say, I haven't either. But you can also use neither. And if you do, you have to use what we call the grammatical flip.
Right, the flip. This is the part that always feels so unnatural to learners because you literally have to reverse the subject and the verb.
It's wild, honestly. Instead of saying, neither I have, you must say, neither have I. You put the verb before the subject, neither, then verb, then subject.
Which completely breaks the normal rules of English where the subject comes first. It feels like you're putting the cart before the horse.
It does, but there's a reason for it. In English, when we start a sentence with a strong negative word like neither, it acts like a warning siren. The sentence structure literally flips to tell the listener, hey, pay attention, something negative is happening.
Okay, but let me ask you this. In a real conversation, people speak so quickly. As a learner, I can't be doing grammar math in my head, thinking, okay, negative trigger, flip the verb, match the tense. How do people actually do this?
You're so right. You cannot think about the rules in real time. If you try, you'll just freeze up and say, neither I do. Native speakers don't calculate the flip. We just memorize chunks of words.
Chunking.
Exactly. You just treat neither do I or neither have I as one single vocabulary word. You just have to build muscle memory.
So what, like practicing it in the shower?
Yes. Or in the car. You literally just say to yourself, I'm not hungry, neither am I don't know, neither do I. Train your mouth so that saying neither I do actually feels wrong physically.
That is fantastic advice. Don't think, just train the reflex. And I guess we should mention the neither nor structure too. It's just like either or, but negative.
Yeah, and it follows the exact same parallel structure rule, the balancing scale. So you'd say, I want neither cake nor biscuits, noun matches noun.
Right. You wouldn't say, I want neither cake nor to eat biscuits. It just sounds a bit messy.
Totally. It derails the train.
Okay, so we've covered either and neither. And those two are very much about logic, aren't they? Yes or no, open or closed.
Yeah, they are very binary. But real conversations aren't just logical. They're emotional. People have preferences.
Which brings us nicely to our third section, the word rather. This is the word that lets you inject your actual personality into the sentence. It softens things.
It really does. So the most common way you'll hear this is the phrase would rather, which just means would prefer, like I would rather stay home.
And there is a very strict rule here, isn't there? You have to use the base verb.
Exactly. No to and no when. It's just I would rather stay. Never I would rather to stay.
Right. And to sound really natural, you should almost always use the contraction. Don't say I would rather, say I'd rather.
I'd rather. It just flows so much better.
It does. But let's look at why this is so useful socially. I like to think of would rather as a conversational shock absorber.
Oh, I love that comparison. What do you mean by that?
Well, imagine a colleague invites you to a really loud, crowded club after work, and you hate loud clubs. If you just say, no, I don't want to go, that's quite harsh, isn't it? It's a bit of a slap in the face.
It is. It kills the mood.
Right. But if you use our shock absorber, you say, actually, I'd rather go somewhere a bit quieter.
Wow. Yeah. The whole tone changes.
Exactly. You're politely steering the conversation. You aren't rejecting them. You are just expressing a different preference. It's incredibly diplomatic.
It's social grace. It keeps everyone happy while still setting your boundary. And speaking of social grace, we have to talk about how rather is used in British English as an adverb, because I think this is fascinating.
Ah, yes. The great British understatement.
Yes. You use it to mean quite or fairly, right? Like, that test was rather difficult.
We do. And I have to be honest with you here. When a British person says a situation is rather difficult, it usually means it's an absolute disaster.
Wait, really? It's a cover-up.
Oh, completely. It's a cultural mask. We don't like to panic people. If I say the meeting was a disaster, I'm projecting stress. But if I sip my tea and say, well, the meeting was rather complicated, I'm telling you it was terrible, but I'm keeping my composure.
That is hilarious. So it's basically a way to soften extreme emotion.
Exactly. It's very polite. And we also use rather than to show contrast, don't we? To show we've thought about our choices.
Yeah. This is a great one for the workplace. Like, rather than wait, let's go now.
Right. It shows maturity. It tells the listener, I considered the first option. I rejected it. And here is my better idea.
It makes you sound so decisive.
It really does. Well, that brings us to the end of our 3 words. Let's do a very quick recap for everyone listening.
Sounds good.
Okay, so either is your tool for keeping options open and for agreeing at the end of a negative sentence. I don't like it either. Then neither gives you the power to confidently reject 2 things, and you use it with that special verb flip. Neither do I.
And finally, rather, is your emotional Swiss Army knife. You use it to politely express preferences, show contrast, and if you're British, hide the fact that everything is going wrong.
Spot on.
And I just want to say to everyone listening right now, you did something really great today by choosing to learn with us. Language isn't just about memorizing vocabulary lists. It's about small, consistent steps. Taking the time to master just 3 little words gives you so many new conversational tools.
It does. It changes everything.
So be proud of yourself. You're building genuine confidence, and it's going to show the next time you speak.
If this episode helped you today, please like this video, share it with a friend who is learning English.
And subscribe to the Talk Ralph English podcast so you never miss a new episode.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep talking, and we will see you very soon. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.